I do not see the death penalty or carrying out the death penalty as an asset for corrections. It is really a far cry from what most corrections professionals are about.
I'm much more strongly opposed to it than ever because the system, the capital punishment system, doesn't work.
I didn't turn against the death penalty overnight, but it was gradual. But I wanted to support it because I thought that Republicans, conservatives, that's what you did. And that's not true.
As long as there's a death penalty, innocent people are going to be executed. Bottom line.
When you think of justice, it ought to be applied across the board. But when you see the death penalty applied to people who live in poverty, who don't have the resources, people who may be struggling with mental health issues, then it affects all of us.
The vast majority of defendants who are sitting on death row were unable to hire their own lawyer at the time of their trial.
We see geography impacting this system. In the state of Tennessee, nearly 40% of our death row here comes from one county. That's Shelby County. When half of the counties in the state of Tennessee have never even sent anyone to death row.
If you look at innocent people that may have been wrongfully convicted, it's hard to say that's justice.
To date, 143 people have been released from death rows across this country when evidence of their innocence came to light. In Tennessee, we've had 4 people who have been wrongfully convicted. And when you are talking about something like death, like taking a human life, you have to be 100% accurate.
A grocery store owner was killed during an attempted robbery. The crime was committed in 1983 in Memphis, Tennessee. On the day the crime happened, we was up with my mom just celebrating her birthday in St. Louis at the time. It was never explained how and why I became a suspect. When I was arrested and brought to Memphis to stand trial, I didn't believe that I would even be convicted of a trial, even though that I was sitting as a young black male before an all-white jury being accused of killing a white store owner in the South. I still didn't believe that I would be convicted for a crime I had committed. It took the jury less than 2 hours to come back with this guilty verdict. It took them even less time to come back with this verdict of, wanting to put me to death. I sit here despite the system, not because the system actually works. I mean, they wanted to murder me, basically. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't have no doubt about that.
I don't consider the death penalty to be a deterrent to crime, and I don't think there's research that supports that it does.
States that utilize the death penalty with frequency do not have lower murder rates. And in fact, there are states without the death penalty whose murder rates are lower.
Once I found out that it didn't deter crime, then I just couldn't support the death penalty anymore. The main tenets of conservatism are pro-life policies, fiscal responsibility, and limited government. The death penalty is inconsistent with each of those. You run a risk of killing innocent people, so it's hard to say it's a pro-life policy. And it's far more expensive than life without parole, so it's not fiscally responsible. Giving the government the power to be able to kill U.S. citizens is not a form of limited government.
The death penalty system costs taxpayers millions more to maintain than a system with life or life without parole as the maximum punishment.
The cost of a capital case on the system is at least 2 or 3 times greater. You have litigation which will take 10, 20, or 30 years. It's millions of dollars per case.
We do a disservice to victims and to their families when we promise them that once the death penalty has taken place, that they will feel like they have had an experience of justice.
And these families could be given legal finality much quicker with the alternative sentences as opposed to waiting for 20, 25 years for a sentence that may never even be carried out.
My mother was an extremely outgoing person. She never met a stranger. More than anyone else, she was the greatest influence in my life. She had a normal, regular day in retirement of working at a soup kitchen. That was a normal day for her. And she had been at my rectory, and she left there. She was abducted at knife point by an escapee from a mental institution. He stabbed her in the throat, and she died immediately. We came upon her car parked in the parking lot of the Union Mission. We opened the trunk and found her there. When the man was apprehended, it was a month later. We said at her funeral, we believe in the miracle of forgiveness. It became a miracle in it that it brought us peace, that the person who lives inside of you no longer had to live there because he is forgiven. We spoke against the death penalty, and then later we issued a formal statement to the district attorney asking that they not consider the death penalty. I'm more convinced that we do not need the death penalty after her murder.
It's asking an awful lot of people to carry out the death penalty law. It is carrying out a state killing. As with any killing of a human being, it's really pins and needles kind of experience. I think it just takes its psychological and physical toll for those who are involved in it.
Public opinion is changing about the death penalty, and more people are opposing the death penalty every day, and more states don't have the death penalty.
The death penalty needs to be abolished. It's not used frequently. It serves no purpose. It drains resources. It is traumatizing to all of the people who participate. It traumatizes all of them.
I'm fighting against the death penalty because what happened to me has happened to hundreds of people in this country.
The loss is so painful and so devastating, and killing doesn't even the score. It isn't an eye for an eye.